and thank you for choosing to listen to Horse Heroes on Tour UK edition. This is a podcast where Floor Schoonmakers from EHS Communications talks to equestrian entrepreneurs and superstars in open-hearted, frank and honest one-on-one conversations. My name is Jack, and I truly hope you enjoy listening to some amazing stories from the world of British and Irish equestrian. Put your feet up, relax and enjoy.
Okay. Finland or England?
England at the moment, I think. I mean, I'm born in Finland, so it's important for me, but I don't get that or go there that often anymore.
Chickens or dogs?
Chickens and dogs. I have both.
Talking or listening?
Talking, probably.
And cooking or being cooked for?
Being cooked for.
Okay, let's get started. And then there's an intro tune coming, and if I edit it, then I'll have your introduction. She is a 6-time Dressage Olympian for Finland, multiple Nordic and Finnish champion in dressage, jumping and eventing. Finalist at many Dressage World Cups and winner of the World Cup final with Matador in 1991. A hugely popular dressage trainer and advisor. Tokyo 2020 was her 11th Olympic Games she has been involved in. Her motto, there are many roads to the top of the mountain, but the view is the same from the top. Today I can proudly say that my last guest of the HorseHeroes UK series, nobody less than the famous Kyra Kyrklund. Hi Kyra.
Hi.
Thank you so much for having me over today.
Thank you for asking me.
Yeah, but I think it's so interesting to hear your story for a lot of people as well in the Netherlands who all know you, but it's different if you can hear the person say it themselves than if you read it in an interview, I think.
Yeah, and sometimes actually with interviews they are not quite right either. The one who is writing it doesn't get it perfectly right, and then it's difficult to correct it later on.
Yes, also, but then now it's just because you get more the atmosphere, you hear somebody's emotion and the voice, so that is, but you've never heard, of course, any of the podcasts before, because it's all in Dutch. So we are doing a little UK tour, and I've seen some of your fantastic colleagues already, and it's been really great fun to be over in England. What we always do during the interview is go way back in time, so I would really like to know actually where you grew up as a kid.
Well, I'm born in Helsinki and I grew up in Helsinki, and I was in Helsinki for most of my youth years. We are 2 kids, I have an older brother, no connection with horses whatsoever, so we lived like in the middle of Helsinki. I have always been really interested in animals. We had a dog at home, and then we had a summer like little holiday place, and that was near my godmother, who had 4 boys, and she always wanted a girl, so I was a bit like an extra girl there. And she had like a big farm with farm animals, cows and working horses and chickens and whatever. And so like every time I had time, then I would go on my bike to her, already since I was maybe 8 years old, and it was like 20 kilometers one way, so
oh wow,
I did get quite a good condition doing it. And then I was there all day, and when I wasn't there, then I would go with, we had a good friend, all my parents had a good friend who was a like country vet, and he would pick me up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then I would go with him all day, helping him treating the animals. I don't know how much help it was, but anyway, so and then I think I must have been like 10 years old, and then we decided we would be riding one of the draft horses they had. They didn't have a saddle or like reins, they had long driving reins only, and me and the oldest boy were riding this mare, and I think now that she can't have been more than 4 years old. I was sitting in front, he was sitting behind, so he had the long reins. Then the dog got loose and came barking, and I think this mare called Iria, she started probably to trot, and he fell off with the end of the reins, and or jumped off, I don't know what, but I fell off anyway and got hooked in the rein from my leg, and then the horse of course got scared and went off.
Yeah.
And I was lucky because their stable manager was coming with another horse from the field, and so he could like put that other horse in front of this one going like a maniac, so she stopped. And I remember getting up and thinking, oh, my mother is going to be crazy again, because I had white shorts and a white t-shirt and it was all dirty, and then I tried to clean the
you
t-shirt.
were worried she was angry about the dirty clothes.
Yeah, but then it turned out that actually I had broken my right arm, like just under the shoulder. So then off to the hospital, and I had it in plaster cast the whole summer, and this was when I was 10. So I had just said to my parents that as soon as this is away or I'm out of the plaster cast, then I want to ride again.
Oh, didn't scare you?
Well, I don't know, but that's what I said. So then they thought, well, better that she then gets 10 lessons in a riding school instead of her killing herself in the countryside.
Yeah.
So that's what I got as my birthday present for my 11th birthday. I got 10 lessons in the riding school in Helsinki, and that was really a good riding school. It was also the only riding school that was in Helsinki, so there wasn't much to choose, but they had very well educated teachers and horses, and that's where I started.
At 11 years old,
yeah,
after the broken arm.
But like when you said if I was afraid, I do remember standing there then. I was so determined to go, like, to ride. But, and my father took me there to the riding school, and we were standing, and then the teacher said, okay, like pointed at me and said the name of the horse that I was supposed to take. And then I remember like walking up to the horse, I was so scared. But at the same time I knew that if I don't do this, I will
never do it again. Yeah. Wow. But then you were 11 years old, and where did you go to school? Or what kind of school did you follow?
Well, I did the normal like education that you do in Finland, and we have like a student exam at the end, like normally when you are 20. And I had thought that I wanted to become a vet. So, but then I wasn't very good in school because I'm dyslexic. And then at the same time, you could either study mathematics or languages. Yeah. And I was okay in mathematics, but I knew that I had to read or study more, so I didn't have time because I wanted to be in the stable. So I took the languages, which now it was really good that I had it because I speak a lot of languages, but at the time it wasn't very good because when you are dyslexic then you will get problems in all other languages too. So we had actually, I mean, probably many people don't know, but Finland, we have 2 official languages, Swedish and Finnish.
Yeah.
So I spoke Swedish with my parents, and I went to a Swedish spoken school. So all the teaching was in Swedish, but then of course you have to learn Finnish anyway.
Yeah.
And I learned it with my pals. So I was like quite fluent in Finnish already when I went to school. I don't speak grammatically very well, but I come by. And then we had English, German and French. So
wow. And then being dyslexic, so
yes,
that was hard.
so
Did you enjoy school?
No.
Why is everybody saying that in this podcast? For me, all the English writers, like, nobody likes school.
Yeah. I don't know. I actually don't have any friends from school anymore because I always went there. I wasn't the one that would have gone to the stable instead of going to school.
Yeah.
But I was very selective in what I wanted to learn. So when it was something that I wasn't interested in, then I did my homework during the school hours. So somehow I got through school, and I wanted to finish school earlier. And my parents, they were very supportive always, and they said, you know, if you know what you want to do, then you can stop with the school. But if you don't know, then go there as long as you have to. And so I had to retake one class because I had I didn't manage all the languages, but then at the end I did my exam, and even our headmaster who had, I think he stopped like a year before, he came to the examination and congratulated me and said, I never believed that you would have done this.
And then what happened? Did you know what you wanted to do after school?
Well, looking at my exams and things, I knew that I couldn't get into the veterinary school anyway. So, and then riding became more and more important for me. So, and we had, I was a lot at the riding school, and we had good teachers who had been educated in Sweden at Strömsholm. At that time we didn't have any sort of riding teacher education in Finland. So then after school I was allowed to go to Strömsholm first for 1 year, and that is like the education for riding teachers. Yeah. And then one student could always stay another year, and then you were like a bit between a teacher and a student. And that was really a very good year for me, because then you were in a place where you knew that you could not stand and just tell them all sorts of things to students, because you knew anybody can come in and listen to your lesson. Yeah. So I really had to like study what am I going to do, and I had to study the theory and things. So
how old were you then?
21 maybe.
And in that time, did you have your own horses as well? Or were you training other people's horses? Or
no, well, during the school time, I was riding 3 years in the riding school, and then I thought, I don't learn so much, and it's going to be too expensive, because all the time my parents paid the first 10 lessons, but after that I had to pay half of it myself. Yeah. With my, weekly allowance that I got anyway. So, and then I helped like at home, and at that time you were collecting newspapers, and then you went and sold the newspaper to a collecting points, and you got some pennies for that. So I tried like to.
You worked hard to do the riding lessons.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah, but it was like important for me too. So it was very good. And then after 3 years, I went with a friend of mine to another place. It was just like a farm also with some horses, but there we could try our own things. You can say that we even put the horse or broke the horse without knowing at all what we were supposed to do. So we put the saddle on in the box, and then we got on her in the stall, which maybe wasn't the best thing.
You weren't scared to break another arm again?
No, but you learned a lot during that time. And then I still had the contact to the riding school, and met then a friend who had a horse, and she was sick herself, so she couldn't ride, and then I was allowed to start riding that horse, and they were really my first sponsors, and she is still one of my best friends in Finland.
Okay.
And with that horse I went to the Nordic Championships, and I actually was second in the Nordic Junior Championship.
But that's what I want to ask. What were you doing? Was it jumping, dressage, or
jumping? I mean, at that time dressage was very on a low base. If somebody could do a flying change, you were almost a world champion in Finland. So definitely I started jumping, and then when I was 17, then the younger sister wanted to start riding the horse, so I had to, I told my parents that the world is going to end because now it's the last junior year and I don't have a horse, and so then it ended up with me and my mother, who didn't know anything about horses. We went to Sweden and looked for a horse, and I wanted a jumper, found a 3-day event there. But they said, he's very well educated in dressage. Yeah. So you had to ride dressage too with him, and that's what I did then. I got him, his name was Kasper. Yeah. And like the first year I won the Finnish Junior Championship in dressage, and then I was fourth in the jumping and second in the 3-day event thing. So it was a very good all-round horse that taught me a lot, and with him I then continued with the help of the riding teacher in the school. We educated him to Intermediate 1, and I won the Finnish Senior Championship with him too.
So that's where it started really the bigger thing.
Yeah, but still, like I did like jumping too. So when I went to Strömsholm, I still was very like undecisive. Should I go on with dressage or jumping?
Yeah.
But at the time before between the first and the second year in Strömsholm, I went to Denmark, and at that time Kasper had already had leg problems, so we had to put him down, and so then I had money to buy a young horse, a 4-year-old called Piccolo, and I thought with him that, you know, if he can jump, I jump, if he can go dressage, I do dressage, and he definitely could not jump.
Oh, he couldn't?
No. Well, he did jump, but it was a bit of a suicide pilot. So then with him after 2 years in Sweden, I went back to Finland, worked at the show jumping yard for a year.
Yeah.
Competing them and educating them. And then I had a couple of bad falls there. So then I did get a bit scared, and it took half a year before I admitted to myself that I'm not good enough for jumping. And then at that time Piccolo was already St. George, so then it was quite easy to
do that. But do you think you had the fear, or that the jumping wasn't good enough because there was a little bit of fear that you have to be so fearless to jump?
Well, I think I didn't have that good an eye, and I got it was more like excited. I still, you know, all my life I still jumped a little bit, so it's not like the fear of the jumping itself.
No.
But it was more feeling that you were not good enough for that. At that time jumping was very different than what it is today, and I also knew from the start that if you want to do jumping you need more horses, and I didn't really have the money to have more horses.
But you were lucky enough, good enough at dressage, turned out to be.
Yeah.
So what happened from there?
Well, then after working that year in Finland, I earned some money, and then I went to Walter Christensen in Germany to spend the money on training. So I was there 9 months and had Piccolo with me, and this is maybe 1977, 78. And also so then I went a couple of years after that also back to him, and I got elected or picked for going to Moscow Olympic 1980, and just before that I was lucky to be able to rent stables in my old riding school, so I got 21 boxes there, and then I started my own business with taking horses into education and riders.
How old were you then?
27 maybe.
So that's why you started your own business with this, and you were quite young to go to Olympic Games.
Yeah.
How was it? How was that? Because it was Moscow.
Well, for Finland and Russia was our neighbors, so it was never a question that Finland would have boycotted it as many other countries did.
Yeah.
And especially the equestrian sport was quite hard boycotted by, I think it was because of the Afghanistan war, and of course at that time in a lot of federations you had more old army majors and or army people in charge, so they were more against the war there and said that riders could go but they shouldn't go. So but I went anyway.
You went anyway.
Yeah, and it was a very important step for me, because the competition wasn't that hard. I was number 5. Riding came very much into spotlight in Finnish press and things, and otherwise we hardly got any news from riding in Finland.
So you made the dressage important for Finland then, already back in these days?
I would say, yeah. I mean, it was I think the last one that had gone to the Olympics must have been in 1940, 50s.
And your parents very proud, of course.
Yeah. But they didn't come there. They just followed it from TV or whatever.
Yeah. And after that, what happened with Piccolo?
Well, Piccolo, he was, I must say, I have learned so much from every horse, and he wasn't like really what you would say exteriorly a dressage horse. He was quite low in the neck, set low in the neck. So to get him like up in a dressage outline, it was hard work for him. So then he ended up getting spavin, and that time you couldn't really do that much to spavin. Nowadays the vets are a lot better. So he ended then up to as a hack for a vet that I had. So he stayed in Finland, and then from that on, because I had my stable in Helsinki, then also I had students and their parents, and one of the parents then said to me before Los Angeles Olympics, like 2 years before, we were in Denmark looking for a horse for the girl, and I rode another one that I always had liked when I was there, and then the father suddenly said, okay, but we could buy that one too, and if you can educate, it was only doing Intermedia 1 at the time, but if you can educate it to Grand Prix, and if you can qualify for the Olympics, then you can keep it until that, and then the daughter will take over. And that's also what happened. I went to Los Angeles with him, and then when we went to Seoul, we had the first time team, and the daughter was riding this horse called Nör.
So that was actually a big opportunity as well, that you could do it in this way.
Yeah, because my parents never had the big money, and I didn't have the big money, so I had to work for getting it. And somewhere, I think with me at least, but probably with most other riders too, you have to be out there, and you have to have students, and and when the chance is coming, then you have to be brave enough to jump on it.
But then at that same time, Matador was around already as well.
Yeah, the funny thing is really that when Nör came from Denmark, Matador came in the same transport.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when he was only 3 years old. And so I had seen him when he was 2.5 in Denmark. He was too expensive for me to buy. And that's also like a amazing story with that horse, because then I came back to Finland, and I was like sad not to be able to buy him, but okay, he wasn't ridden, so you didn't know, but he just was very
Where did you see him?
In Denmark.
Yeah, but were you looking for horses, or you just saw him?
No, we were going around looking for horses.
And you weren't looking for a 2.5-year-old?
No. But he was with a student or a fellow student of mine that had been in Strömsholm at the same time. So he had him, and we went to look at other horses, and then he'd just say, oh, look at this one too. So
and you were like...
Yeah.
In love straight away.
And then I came back to Finland, and I had a other customer in Finland who had bought quite a few horses. And when I got home, then he said, oh, I would like to buy a young stallion. Do you know anything? I said, yes. So then he went to Denmark and looked at him and bought him.
Oh, wow.
And then like half a year later he came.
So he was really young when you got him.
Yeah.
And what was he like? What kind of horse was he?
Very sensitive and very energetic, and like brave but very sensitive for sounds. And he never really tried to get you off, but he was quick when he moved. He didn't have that like amazing gaits, but when you rode him, you felt like driving the biggest Mercedes with everything that you can like buy in gadgets. And then you looked at the video and you said like, what? It doesn't move anywhere.
It felt different.
Yeah. And that's actually, I people who worked for me or people who rode him because he did his performance test in Finland.
Yeah.
Everybody loved him who rode him. And they all like said, wow. And he was a very quick learner, and I think because I had Piccolo from the beginning, who was it was very like physically hard to ride him in the arena, because it was difficult for him to do the stuff I wanted him to do. At that time, you almost always thought that it's only a question of training. If you train, then it will. But now I understand that it's also a question of how the horse is built, what he can do.
Yeah.
But because he had been it was so physically hard to ride him, then I really enjoyed Nör, who was very hot, and then of course also Matador, who was very sensitive. But like he learned Piaf when he was 5 years old, when he didn't want to walk home when I was riding outside, and because I knew that I wanted to ride Grand Prix, then I didn't tell him off. I just say, okay, this is good, walk, you can learn later.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of, at that time people didn't really think of how does horses learn, but I had already, like, I was in school actually. I was very interested in psychology.
Yeah.
And like learning. So I think I was quite early on, like, understanding horses, how they learn, or what you need, like, later on.
Yes.
Probably if I wouldn't have had a couple of Grand Prix horses before him, then
you wouldn't have known.
No.
But then you had the World Cup final.
Yeah.
With him, a big thing, of course. Is that one of your best memories in your riding career?
Yeah, it's of course a big one, but I think even bigger was the World Championships in Stockholm, 1990, because I mean I had I was in Seoul, and he was going well in Seoul. He was fifth there, but he actually would have had a medal chance if I wouldn't have spoiled it. Because,
what happened?
Well, then I think he was maybe fifth in the Grand Prix, and I had won everybody in, like, all the riders that were in front of me. So then I was like very, I really wanted a medal.
Yeah.
So stupidly I went to our Olympic committee, to the head trainer there, who didn't know anything about horses, and then I said, well, do you think I should, like, risk everything? If I warm him up a little bit less, then he maybe goes a bit more in the arena, and I could have a medal, or should I just do what I always do? And he said, yes, risk everything. So
you did.
Yeah, so I warmed him up too little. So then when he went in, he was like I hardly could, like, touch him at the beginning of the program.
Oh.
But without that experience, I don't think that I would have learned that you can't change anything. You have your horse and you do your thing, and that's it. So, and then after, the year after, he got colic and was operated, and at that time people didn't operate horses for colic. It was very, like, seldom that they survived or even, like, came back to any sort of sport. And he had a big hernia.
Oh.
After it, like, you could really see it. And so then we were in contact with vets all over the world, America and Germany, and tried, like, to see what could we do to reduce that hernia. And then at the end it was a Swedish vet who said, okay, I can try to operate him and put in a net that would then keep it a bit better. So he was operated, and in Helsingborg at the vet clinic there, and came home, and, like, then came back to sport, but people didn't really believe it. They thought that he was dead or would never come back to sport, or rumors, of course, were that I was pregnant and I had a boy, and heaven nobody knew the father's name, but I didn't know either because I wasn't pregnant. So, like, for him then to come back and qualified for the World Championships and riding in the World Championships, that was
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like I didn't ride for a medal or anything. I just enjoyed every second riding that horse.